Hi, my name is Jen, and I just graduated from Sheridan in May 2014. And I really wish that I was there tonight to share my thoughts and also just to hear how the program is developing and changing. But because I'm not able to, I'd like to share some of my thoughts about my experiences with the program and maybe some suggestions that perhaps you might have already thought about, or things that could just maybe make the learning journey a little bit better or easier for the students that are in the program. So I've just looked at the program agenda for this evening, and I've jotted down a few thoughts to share. So the first thought I had about the class structure was thinking about making the change with regards to pharmacology and anatomy and physiology. And my thoughts regarding that class, those two classes particularly, is that I was wondering if in the program there could be a way of integrating those two classes. I'm not sure if that's feasible from a administrative point of view, but I found it that for myself personally and other students as well, it seemed to take a lot more extra time to kind of put those two classes together, particularly the first pharmacology class. There seemed to be a lot of memorization. And just speaking as someone who's quite a visual learner, I found it really difficult just memorizing pharmacology, and I'm realizing now that I've been practicing for 2 months, yay, that I've been practicing for 2 months, that it does tend to click together, but under the stress and the demands of the program, it would have been really, really helpful to have a better picture, I guess, of how everything kind of worked together, as particularly working on like a med-surg floor, or working, for example, on a respirology floor as well. So yeah, perhaps that's really up to the students of how they learn and how they put that together. But if there would be a way of possibly integrating or emphasizing more in the pharmacology, what the anatomy and physiology actually looks like and how the drugs work, that would be fantastic. Secondly, I wanted to move to the CPNRE preparation, and I actually thought that we did a pretty good job going through the program. A lot of the tests were structured to reflect the style of the CPNRE exam, and I do understand that you will be moving to the NCLEX PN exam, so that's pretty good. But I just thought that maybe a way to better implement this could be to have kind of those mock tests, similar to the one that we did in fourth semester. I believe it was on reading week. If we kind of did more mock exams, just to kind of go through the process of writing. I found writing the exam actually not too bad. I wrote it in Hamilton, and I would actually suggest that to lots of students, because I found that it seemed to be less stressful than the experiences of my classmates who wrote in Toronto, where there were a lot more people. You were sharing a table with someone. Anyways, just the whole structure of the CPNRE is already stressful enough because we're going for our licenses. But I just thought that maybe having more structured tests like that maybe wouldn't be counted towards our grade, but would be part of participation, just so that people would be able to kind of get a feel for what it's like to be writing under pressure, and certainly at that height of an exam as well. I thought as well, for my class, we used the CPNRE 4th edition, and I think the general consensus was that particular edition was not very helpful, nor was it very in-depth for the preparation of the exam. I would just encourage students, and again, this is tempered by the fact that we're writing the NCLEX, not the CPNRE, but encourage students to look for lots of other resources. Some students who are currently in the program have asked me, do you have any other additional resources, other editions of these CPNRE editions, and thankfully I've known people who have gone through the program before. So yes, I had a couple other books that had lots of other questions, but really just encouraging students to, even from the second semester, even first and second semester, to begin collecting resources that will help them, because that is something that's on top of all the coursework for fourth semester. Obviously, there's a heightened level of anxiety in preparing for the actual written licensing exam itself. So that's something that I would kind of integrate more into the program. Maybe a change that could be integrated slowly. I had a thought regarding the realities of practice and just my own expectations going into that program, that class, I should say. I actually thought that the class would be a lot broader in scope in terms of the kind of material that was presented. And in talking with a lot of my classmates who graduated in May, I think a lot of us were pretty disappointed both with, it seemed like, the lack of preparation for that course. And that's not to say anything about the instructors, but just that the course in general tended to be work that we really could have done on our own. There are just a lot of case studies and, putting questions together for that were kind of like the CPNRE questions that we experienced. But I actually thought maybe another thing that would be, maybe another thing that would be useful for that class would actually to be looking at not just preparation for the licensing exam, but what it actually looks like to practice as a nurse. What are some practical expectations as a nurse? For instance, shift work can be quite difficult, and depending on your situation in life, whether you're married, you're dating, that type of thing, you have kids, that can be quite an adjustment to juggle shift work from even just going to school, where you kind of have your classes are structured and you can kind of make your weeks look as comfortably as you can. Mind you, there are things that come up as you study, and there are things that might interrupt your study habits. But anyways, back to the realities of practice. I think it would be really, really practical to spend half a class or an hour or so looking specifically at things like self-care, things like resources that nurses can use, like support groups, I guess. And I'm sure that as the more experience that people have working in the field, the more resources we are aware of that can actually assist in somebody kind of making that transition and living well as a nurse. Because nursing can be quite stressful, can be strenuous. There can be a lot of demands, both personally or interpersonally, working on a team with different personalities and different working environments. But I think just kind of broadening out the scope of realities of practice would be really beneficial for students. Secondly, and I think this was touched later on in the agenda, but I thought that it would be really, really helpful. Maybe this could be part of the realities class as well, looking at things like interview skills and questions to anticipate in an interview. Even if it's not specific, just having the experience as a student to understand maybe what more employers are looking for. I stepped into the nursing program not having any PSW background or having worked really in a hospital at all. And thankfully, when I stepped into the interview for my current position right now in mental health, I was sent a list of questions to kind of think about, and I had to actually respond to, and that was kind of the first step before I actually met face-to-face with my now current employers. So I think it would be really, really good to practice those interview questions, or at least maybe even just provide a list of areas where current students can kind of take a look at and be aware of and cognizant of as they prepare for their interview and as they prepare their resume and prepare to step into working life as a nurse. On that topic of resumes as well, I think it would be really helpful. Something I wish that I had had more direct assistance with from the practical nursing program is putting together a professional nursing resume. I went online and I did find quite a few really helpful resources, but I think it would be really helpful as a program staff, and this might even involve bringing in graduates like myself who have gone through the process of putting together a resume, but just assisting someone in putting together a resume for nursing. And you know what? It's a skill across the board in any job that you're part of, but particular to nursing, how much clinical experience should you include? I had someone offer the suggestion of including, as you go through the program, breaking down your resume in terms of where your placement actually was and the skills that you gained, so that you will show throughout the program that you've actually progressed and you've built on the skills that you've gained from first semester, so that by the time you get to fourth semester, you can show your employer that, or your current or future potential employer, that you have actually made the effort and you've put yourself out there as a student to gain those skills, and that you have gained confidence as well as you've progressed. A second note in the area of professional resume building is just to remind students and encourage students to not just build that rapport with your clinical instructor and the people that you're working with, but if there are particular people that you've built a relationship with as a student, that you make that effort to get the contact information, maybe from the nurses that you've worked with, that you've been buddied with throughout the program or throughout the particular semester that you've been part of. That's something that a couple of my friends in the program have suggested and wanted me to pass along to that, because sometimes you get to the end of the program and you realize, oh, you know what, I wish I had the name of that nurse that I worked with in second semester. She was really great, really encouraging, and I think she'd be a really good reference for me as I step into my my interview process. So just a note on that. So the resume building, working through that in terms of skill building, and things to include on a resume, as well as building a list of contacts that will help you as you build your references, and as you go through the interview process. Lastly, I had some thoughts about the roles of practical nursing students in the clinical setting. I'm sure we've all had experiences that were great, that were not so great, but were character building. And I think that there is kind of a knowledge piece, or a gap there that could be bridged by encouraging students to really work on the reflective practice of their personal goals for that semester. So at the beginning of the semester, we sit down with our clinical instructor for that semester, and we're given a list of all the things that we're expected to know or cover or hopefully will experience during that semester. But I think it would be really helpful for students, and maybe working this into a clinical requirement, for students to get that checklist kind of before the initial meeting on the first week of the semester with the clinical instructor, and encourage students to maybe write a reflection on areas that maybe they wish that they had made more work or made more effort in the previous semester or semesters, things that they would like to improve on personally, and maybe look at the skills and the confidence levels that they feel that they should be at for the semester that they are just starting, and kind of integrating it that way. I found sometimes I went into the first clinical setting, and it was, it is a little bit tricky kind of figuring out the nurses you'll be working with, and how the staffing and the students will be paired up. But I found that as a student, if I had maybe just been encouraged or been aware of or thought of, I guess, more the weaknesses that I had had as a student going into the semester, I really probably could have made much better use of my clinical experience. So that is my experience in a nutshell as a student and transitioning into my position right now. I am working in mental health and I love it. I guess on that note as well, I would really, really encourage students right now just to kind of begin thinking of areas where they would like to work when they become a nurse. I really wanted to get a position in mental health. Thankfully, I had a really good clinical experience in my fourth semester, so that for my pre-grad, I worked in mental health, and now I have a position here. It did take me about 4 months. So I began applying, actually 5 months, I guess, applying even before I graduated, where I did my clinical placement. I gave half of my resumes, kind of went to this one place, and I never heard back. But I kept looking around for mental health facilities and eventually found a position in Guelph. And I really love it. It's been amazing. I would just encourage students, if you're able to kind of hold out until you find a position or, get another kind of job while you're working for the job that you would like as a nurse, obviously that's ideal. And I was able to find a position, but I would just encourage students to don't give up in the job search, because it really does, it really does pay off if you find a job that you are passionate about and you love going to work every day. Yes, there's challenges. There's things I'm always learning every day. Have I made mistakes? Yes, I have. But I've also learned from them, and integrating that reflective practice into my practice right now has been a good experience so far. So anyways, thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts. I hope the rest of the meeting goes well, and I look forward to hearing how the rest of the meeting goes. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.